And we're going to start talking about what are the most important factors in college admissions. And I'd love to have my lovely colleague, Clink, who has been in the college application field for years and have so many successful experiences helping students get into those top tier universities, to share your insight about this question.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Let me give you some info on what I think are the most important factors in college admissions. So let me start by telling you my story. So I started out at Yale and Harvard, and I worked as a tutor for students at both universities, and I helped students improve their writing. After graduating, I moved to China, and I worked as a teacher and a college counselor, and later as a principal. And I helped my students who were applying to universities in the US, the UK, and Canada. I had many talented students in China, and I thought that all of them really stood out to me. But I found that many of my students were having trouble getting accepted into universities. And as I looked into the problem, I found that I believed that many of the top universities were discriminating against Asian students. And the universities themselves see it much differently than this. And incidentally, there have been some Supreme Court cases against them, and the universities have won. So they're allowed to continue these practices. But I studied the Supreme Court cases against my alma maters, Harvard and Yale, and I noticed that it seemed to me like there was evidence that the schools were giving lower personality scores to, especially to Asian students. And so I began to work with my students to help them raise their personality scores. And I think this is the most important part of the application process. And once I began to teach my students the tricks behind giving themselves more personality and giving their essays more personality, they began to have vastly more successes in their admissions. So one of the keys for me that I think students should think about in their own lives is a unique perspective. So students need to think about their passions and how their passions give them a unique perspective. And sometimes students don't think that they have a unique perspective. And usually it just takes a little bit of talking with a coach to help find the best approach, the best way to take important points from your background and weave them into a narrative. So for me, it is very important for a student to make a compelling narrative about themselves. And it's even more important now that we are in a test optional world and students are going to, the essays are just much, much more important. So for me, students need to be able to show significant passion, a significant perspective. And one way that I really like to show this is by showing transformation. So I always help my students think of ways that they've transformed. And I think that this is a very effective way for them to raise their personality scores. And I found that working with students, this technique worked with students in Asia. And then when I moved back to America and began working with American students, again, the technique worked for them as well. So I think it's just very important to begin working with a coach and find your unique perspective and your unique voice and begin looking for ways to highlight that.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing, Clink. As you may hear, Clink has been working with many international students and American students. And through his experience working with Chinese students, he learned more about Asian culture, so he can use what he understands from those high contact culture into his interaction with Asian American students here in the United States, and try to find a way to highlight their uniqueness in this college application process. So let's see.
Many students at first, they think that it's going to be a stressful experience, but really after they start working on it, it can be a very fun experience, and students find out a lot more about themselves, and students find a lot more about their goals and their passions. And especially I've just had many students tell me that they've just realized new things about themselves in this process that's really helped them not only figure out what path that they want to take academically, but figure out even after they graduate what they want to do with their lives. So I think this process can be so important to a student's life.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Yeah, we will not only help students at where they are, we want to help them to go through their college career and even beyond college. We want to educate them, become one of the lifelong learner, right? And we want them to increase their self-awareness. Actually, developing their college application process is a process to help them figure out who they are and who they want to be and how we can lead them to where they want to be in the future.